Celtics Twitter and conversation sphere around the team that they missed out on getting something from Indiana. But if the talk was McDermott and Turner for
Mhm.
Hayward, I don't know. I'm not thrilled with that. And they got Tristan Thompson out of it in the end, which I think could have been a motivating factor to dropping those talks.
Yeah, I think so to some extent. I think Turner is a better player than Tristan Thompson. Thompson might be a more seamless fit because he's not going to expect to do a whole lot within Boston's offense. He really is just going to kind of fill those needs. But I think from an asset management standpoint, you'd rather do the deal with Indiana because Turner is a very movable contract. Like they were getting good offers for him at the deadline last year, and even if you don't love what he can bring to the table, you could move him if need be. He's a much better rim protector. He's a rare 3 and D center, which is tough to find. Tristan Thompson brings a different skill set. He's not much of a rim protector in the traditional sense, but he's going to help prevent guys from getting to the rim, especially when you look at the perimeter defenders that Boston has. Tristan's someone that can switch, he can defend in space. And I think that overall is going to have a significant positive impact on the Celtics team.
For sure, and I've always wanted him. Like I remember texting you around the trade deadline. I was like, "Could we get him?" And then I texted
Yeah.
you before the offseason. I'm like, "Is there any possibility?" And it didn't seem like it. You didn't think so. I didn't think so. And then it just came out of nowhere last week. They get him 2 years on the mid level, which again, I think that might come out of nowhere after the Lakers sign Montrezl Harrell, which was a surprise, and the Clippers end up setting their sights on Serge Ibaka, who ended up leaving Toronto surprisingly. So I think a
Yeah.
couple dominoes fell there, and all of a sudden the Celtics ended up being the best destination for him. But it stunned me, and I'm willing to bet that it stunned the Celtics too that they were able to get him.
Yeah, and there was talk last season that he could potentially be a buyout candidate, which I always felt there
Oh,
was no real
I think
chance of that happening.
Danny was clinging to that possibility.
Yeah, there didn't seem like there was any real chance that was going to happen, and ultimately that was correct. Another thing that ended up working in Boston's favor as well was Toronto playing in Tampa Bay this season because Brian
All
Windhorst
right,
has
let's
mentioned
get to
this.
that. You've mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah, Brian Windhorst has mentioned it. I've heard the same. Is if Tristan was going to go to Toronto and kind of replace Ibaka, because that was the whole thing. If Ibaka was leaving, Toronto likely was going to want to bring back Tristan. They weren't sure what's going to happen with Marc Gasol, but with them playing in Tampa Bay and not playing in front of fans, it's not really the homecoming experience that Tristan would want going to Toronto. So I think that was a bit of a factor. But there was always some interest in Boston, from what I'm hearing. I think preference would have been the Lakers. But Boston presented the best combination of a winning team, playing time. I mean, I think he's going to earn the starting spot in Boston. I know Daniel Tice is a nice player,
I
but
agree.
I think Tristan kind of suits that starting lineup a little bit better.
Is he
I
shooting
think
threes now? It looked like he started a little bit last year.
yes, he hit some threes. I don't think he's going to do that as much. I think some of that is just kind of the situation that Cleveland was in, and he just wanted to kind of demonstrate that he can do it. But one of the nice things with Tristan Thompson, especially when it's games that matter on a winning team, he sticks to what he does best. He probably had his best season as a pro offensively last year. He's added a lot to his game, and I think what he's added is kind of conducive to playing alongside a good team. Like he now makes nice passes out of the pick and roll. Really good reads as a passer. He's improved his touch. I know some of that's evident with the 3 point attempts, but I don't think those are going to be there. But I do think that that increased touch is going to translate in other ways.
38 attempts last year. I love to see that. I love to see the face-up game that he was showing there with the ball in his hands quite a bit. He's such a great fit here, and he's one of the best centers on the market. I think he's become so brutally underrated in the days after LeBron left there. People seem to think he's kind of old and past his prime, but like you said, you look at the numbers last year, and he just had his best career. Celtics fans are going to love this guy. Uh,
He's 29. He's
yeah,
29. See, the reason behind that was when when LeBron first came to Cleveland, he played every single game, and one of the regrets David Griffin has expressed is not finding in 2017 a backup for Tristan Thompson and Kyrie Irving because it really wore them down. People will point to the 2017 finals and say, oh, Steph Curry out rebound Tristan Thompson. Well, Steph was playing 40 minutes a game. Tristan was playing 20 minutes a game and playing through injuries because the Cavs had no backup. It was those consecutive finals runs. And in addition to that, his loyalty to Team Canada might have bit him a little bit as well, because he was basically the only NBA player after making deep finals runs, going and playing for Team Canada, and the wear and tear just kind of got to him. But at this point, he's now healthy again. He's looking really good. I don't know if he can defend 1 through 5 the same way he used to be able to. In those finals, you would see him switch on to Steph Curry, and that was a big part of how they were able to basically make the death lineup a net negative. Like they won those minutes against the death lineup because of Tristan Thompson. I don't know if he can do it as consistently, but I think he can still switch 1 through 3 and can guard guards on the odd possession. But it really, really is a nice fit. It's painful to see him go to the Celtics after 9 years in Cleveland. Especially you got two of my all-time favorite Cavaliers. Kyrie's kind of soured a little bit for me, but both of them leaving to Boston is a tough pill to swallow. But I am happy to
Unreal.
see him in a good situation.
Yeah, and then you end up with Horford on the other side of the Celtics thing last year, and now the guy who was killing Horford for years with the Celtics is going to be in green. It's crazy how many guys you never would have thought would be in Celtics uniforms landed here. But when you
Yeah.
look at it, when you look at the perspective here, and this is why like Celtics fans got to get excited about this, and I know there's reasons that they possibly could have botched this Hayward thing to be upset about, but landing with him as consolation and this trade exception they could be getting is so huge if they end up using that down the line. They could be putting a pretty good team together in that here now. I listened to your pod the other day that you did about Tristan's departure from the Cavaliers perspective. I wanted to have you on here to kind of forecast how this could look with the Celtics. Two sides to this. I heard you talking about how great of a leader he was, veteran presence, that kind of stuff, which Boston hasn't had in recent years. So I think that's going to be valuable. And then I see Kim Kardashian saying that we're going to Boston.
Hey, let's be clear. Khloe Kardashian has more rings than the Celtics in the last 30 years. She got 2 with Lamar and she got 1 with Tristan. So that's a 3-time champion that you're welcoming into your locker room.
That is true. Championship experience. I like Kim. I watched her thing with David Letterman. They like, we know it's crazy. I like her more than Kanye now.
Oh my God. But getting back to Tristan, he is a very good leader. And that was a big part of why the Cavs wanted to bring him back. There was some mutual interest there. What Tristan wanted from the Cavs, from what I've heard, is a lot higher than what he signed for in Boston. The Cavs didn't offer what he signed for in Boston because he had already made it pretty clear he wanted a little more than that. So yeah, I mean, it was a tough situation. I think they were hoping that the center market would dry up and that they would eventually be able to bring him back. So that was always kind of plan A. But Tristan, he's one of the few guys in that locker room that would stand up to LeBron, both on court and off court. Like he would call out LeBron. We've all seen it with LeBron, right? Especially in these later stages of his career, he'll take defensive plays off, and then he's going to yell at his teammates for his blown assignment. Tristan would be someone that would call him out on that. Tristan's someone that works incredibly hard. He pushed the young guys really well, even though it was a losing situation and he had already made all this money and he had already won a championship. He was still in the locker room working with all those young guys, and they absolutely love him. And what they are losing in the locker room is probably greater than what they're losing on the court, which is saying something because he was probably a top 3 impactful player on the Cavs last season.